What's up, Buzz Squad? It's your boy Dalton back at it again with another deck profile. I'm bringing you the Forbidden Double Horus. Your boys got you. Legend Dragons all day. Can't wait until their second support. Let's get into it. Let's go. Alright, boyos, it's time for the deck profile, the Sentry, as I move around the play mat because it's so slick on this table. We got them Legend Dragons today. Got them beautiful Buddy Rares with the Horuses. Can't forget Frieza, but different spelling, remember that. Magma, fantastic. The beautiful shiny flag. Was lucky enough to pull that. Let's get right into it. Start off, run 2 copies of the Grand Sage. I'm not even going to try to say his name because it looks all ridiculous. Size 3, he's really just a size 1 since you have 2 Dragods in your buddy zone, so that reduces his size. 2 gauge, top card of deck into soul. And then if he's in center, he gives himself and your buddy monsters plus 10,000 power and plus 1 crit. He's great to break through the center so you can swing harder with your buddies, but if they rest him or they can stop his attacks or something like that, you still got like triple attack on your buddies. Run 4 Magma. I probably run the most of the Dragods out of most deck lists you're probably ever going to see, just because I wanted to and I could. Run 4 of him. On enter with the double buddy gift from Frieza. He destroys 2 cards and draws you 2 cards, so no matter what, you're drawing 2 cards. Remember that. And at the start of your attack phase, he gets all your size 1 Dragods triple attack, which is beautiful. He is the more offensive one with the 8,000 power, with Frieza being your more defensive one and the one to call him out, which is nice. So Frieza, 2 gauge, you never really care about calling Magma by himself because that would be stupid, by the way. Double buddy call Magma. Also protects your Dragods and Kings from being bounced and destroyed by your opponent's card effects, which is nice. Not gonna lie, I only cared about the double buddy gift thing and kind of forgot that he had another ability. So don't forget that. That protects your stuff. Fantastic duo. Can't wait for Raw to come out. I run 3 of the Starry Night Enchanter. Basically, pitch a Legend Dragon from hand, check top 5 for 1 Legend Dragon and 1 Dragod. It does not specify monsters or items, so you can grab spells if you like, or items. All that good stuff. Only 3 just because 4 was a little clunky, kind of made the deck a little worse. 3 I think is the perfect number. If I could get it down to 2, I would try to, but 3's been working out perfectly, so nothing too crazy there. Next, I run 2 Vassals Isotout. Just because I wanted to make sure I had a decent way of gaining gauge. Just on enter, if you have another Legend Dragon, gain 2 gauge and 1 life. Life's kind of unimportant, but important. You can definitely be running the next card that I run at 2 copies as well. At 4 instead, I just felt like this was better for my deck, for my version, and how I was playing it. It just made it seem easier to get everything going with the deck. Next card from the start deck or trial deck, however you like to call it, Mummy Maker. On discard, gain 2 gauge, so basically the same there. And then on enter, if you have another Legend Dragon, gain a life and draw a card, which is fantastic, but I don't know why, for some reason I felt like it was kind of clunky, so I messed around with it. This seemed to be a perfect ratio for me. It worked well until I played myself out of the tournament, but that's a different story for a different time. So yeah, basically 2-2 there. Next, I run 3 of our Junior Long Spear Warrior. When he's pitched at the end of turn, if you have a Legend Dragon on field, you may return him back to hand and gain a gauge and 1 life, which is fantastic. I probably ran 1 too many copies. I probably should have kept him at 2, but while I was testing it, 2 copies didn't seem like it was enough, so I decided to bump him up to 3. and it seemed like it was some too much. So there's some work here. Because you can definitely just say to him for Aldewalls, because Aldewall, the original discard card. Pretty simple. Gauge and draw. Can't argue with that. Pretty straightforward. Only play 2 items. The best item for the deck, in my opinion, the Spectre of Maiden. Rest it, grab back a Legend Dragon monster from your drop zone by resting it. It's fantastic, and then it gets your Legend Dragons on your left and right plus 5,000 power. Who really cares about that, even though that is helpful? It is the whole recursion of everything. So grab back your discard cards and your other resources and all that good stuff. It's a shame that it's only 2 monsters, but it would be busted otherwise. Off to spells. The only 4 of spell in the deck is Dejumau. Stand your buddy's zone, search out your Legend Dragons, your Horuses, I should say. Pretty straightforward. If you add 2, you discard 1 card, which is bangers. So it's a staple. You have to run it at 4. There's no questioning about it. Next, I run 3 Yingle Guards. These are not the double rares. I know. I only have 2 copies of the double rare. So I had to get the trial deck to get 3 of them because I wanted to run 3. 3 is the best number for it. More discarding of cards from hand, so proccing more skills. So if you pitch all the wall, it's really a gauge 1 and draw 3. No big harm there, right? But staple. Run 3 Brethren Guards. Kind of a staple for Legend World. You need spell nulls to really stop players who are trying to go into Lost World and trying to dig into their Lost World deck. Just kind of foreshadowing in the review that's coming out soon, hopefully. Negated 2 draw spells from Lost World, and my opponent felt so bad. I'm sorry, but it had to be done. That's what happens when you make me go first. Run 2 of the Retainer Shields. Pretty straightforward. Basically an infinite card, basically, as long as you still have Legend Dragons or Dragods on board. So you can keep pitching a card from hand to keep recycling it. Otherwise, just straightforward. And the fact that it doesn't have a restriction of you having a Legend Dragon on board to cast it is kind of stupid, in my opinion, with the way that Ace has gone. But I ain't gonna argue. So, you can stop other decks that you might have seen on the channel. Hint. Run 2 rings here, just because I wanted more discard fodder and another negate. That seemed really good. Again, only when you're being attacked. So again, kind of stopping some FTKs out there, so you don't need a board. And then to draw and gain a life when you discard a card. But no matter what, you get that negate off, then nullify the attack, which is fantastic. Recommend it. Otherwise, you can run, I can't remember the name of it, but it's basically discard a card from hand to reduce damage to 0 and gain a gauge. You can run that instead, but I had to bling it out because I wanted to. Run 2 the King's Guidance. This is basically, funny enough, probably your most defensive card in the deck, but yet being the most offensive card in the deck because it bounces back up to 2 Dragods, and then you can call up to 2 Dragods. I like doing that more on my opponent's turn for a defensive play. But if I know I'm in the lead and I should end them there, I'll go offensive with it, which is nice. You can only cast it during each player's attack phase, so remember that, so you're not just doing it willy-nilly, but still, fantastic card. Also, all the spells for Legend Dragons are Legend Dragons, which is a nice little thing. The Arcane Crown, to search out your item, or to grab back 2 different Legend Dragons from drop. If you add back 2, pitch 1 card. Again, synergy. That's basic. You only need 2. If you're on more of it, I question your sanity. No, I'm joking. But if you run more of it, it's definitely going to bog down your deck. You can definitely run another copy of the King's Guidance, but otherwise, only 2 of the Crown here. And I run 2 Assault Guards, just to kind of keep going with plays, kind of get rid of a size 1 that I no longer need to try to get out the size 3, so that I, 1, have the gauge for them, 2, don't just have to call over type deal, which is nice. It's just really nice. Also use it defensively as well if you wanted to, but you know, it's not necessary, but you can. It's another defensive card, I guess you could say. Run 2 of the Legend Dragon draw spell, Le Barque. If you have 2 or more Legend Dragons on field, to cast it for a gauge to gain a life and draw 2 cards. Pretty straightforward. You could run it at 3, but I think that might be a little too much, especially with the other draw cards in the deck, but I'd say it's fantastic at 2, the way it should be. Kind of my spicy tech here, I run 2 Recovery Veils. Not for protection from discard, because if you're making me discard, you're actually hurting yourself. Funny enough. I use it for the gauge gain most of the time, and also for the fact that I can reduce the next damage by attacks to 0, which again is a major counter for another deck on the channel. But doesn't really matter. I guess the discard's nice in case I don't have any discard cards in hand, but otherwise, gauge gain is fantastic for it. Lastly, run the last shield, the blue shield. I'm just calling it the blue shield because I don't feel like saying its name. You basically use it for its first effect to restand 2 or more of your Dragods with different card names on the field. Also, its second effect is to reduce damage you take from attacks to 0, which is awesome. But you mainly use it to restand your cards. Let's get into the sideboard. My sideboard's probably interesting. Run 2 Sector Collapse to basically get through some problematic things like that. Like, I can't remember the name, but the new Fairy King kind of help with that. I did see 1 or 2 of those decks out there. Basically, cast it this turn when was size 1 or less Legend Dragon attacks a monster on your text on your field, you destroy up to 1 card on your opponent's field, and if you do, deal 1 damage, which is nice. I run 2 of the Great Spell and the attack phase. Surprising enough, I didn't use it too much, but this card is necessary for the deck. I'm not going to lie, you need to run this card, just because if you go up against a mirror, it stops the mirror. If you go up against, let's say, not Legend Dragons, but Dimension Dragons, kind of slows them down. Lost World, all that good shebang. Garga stops all the multi-attackers out there. I run 2 of the Wind Pitch Stand Your Buddy Zone card, just in case I want to keep restanding my cards, my buddy zones. It's just nice little helpful there. You don't really care for the whole the spells you cast with shield cannot, and its card name cannot be nullified. That's cute. Maybe I'll make a meme deck with all shields in this guy because it'd be funny. But you basically run it just for more standing of your buddy zone. Next, I run 2 of the Pantheons, just because we don't have the draw set spell for Legend Dragons, which is very sad. It protects all your size 2 or less monsters on your field from being destroyed, which is muy bueno. And then also it can rest a card once per turn by discarding a card from hand, which is nice. Some more ways to discard cards from your hand, and protects your other size ones if you have to run those. So there's that. 2 a wise move. Pretty simple. Your Dragods are size 1s, so why not a wise move them out? Especially if you can just go buddy call and then be like, hey, look, pop some stuff, which wouldn't be too bad. Definitely only sideboard. I would not run it main board just because it's a little hefty. You kind of have to plan for it. And the last, probably the most important card in Legend World to date outside of like all to wall is Overturn Ice Emperor Nazaria. Kind of straightforward. You're resetting the game state. What can I say? What can I say? that basically wraps up the deck list here for you guys. Let me know what you think down in the comments down below. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on other deck lists and things like that. Follow us on Instagram. Join our Discord if you want to talk more Legend Dragons, because I wouldn't mind doing that. Support us on Patreon. Check out our shop. All links will be down below. And can't wait for Raw to come out to really destroy some people. And above all else, stay classy, y'all.